Darci Charlie Dee, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Rick Watson.
We just had a funny conversation about last names. Yeah. And you don't normally go by that.
By Darci Colensor. Yeah, no, I don't. Legally, I do. That's my legal name. Yeah, double barrel name. Cole was my mum and Ensor was my dad.
Yep.
Or is my dad.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a hyphenated son, so I've got that. Yeah, we decided to split it as well.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been pestering you to be on this podcast for about 6 months. I feel like it's low-key, like, shaming you.
It's true.
Does it feel like that?
I haven't felt pestered. You've definitely asked me a fair few times, and I have wanted to. I've just been, I guess waiting to feel spacious enough to come down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's the space capacity feeling today?
Well, it's funny. I plan a lot of stuff around my cycle, and I thought, yep, this is the good week to do it when, my mind is usually clear. I'm usually not as easily triggered. My mental filtration system is
on point.
Yeah, more on point. But yeah, it's been a pretty big week, and I have also felt spacious, but I've kind of been forced to create space just because it's been a bit of a heavy landing after our weekend at GTB, I guess, and a few things unexpected happened in the family last week, and I've just been feeling a lot this week.
Yeah.
But it's been,
and you still came,
and I still came,
yeah.
And it's actually feels a little bit like a refuge, which I was noticing because normally in weeks like this, I just cancel everything, I clear the schedule and create space. But usually after a weekend at GTB, I usually plan space, and this still felt. Yeah, it still felt very much within my capacity and even slightly nourishing. Yeah.
Shit.
It even surprises me.
Yeah, that's cool. I 100% agree. I love this conversation. So I'm like, I kind of have an inside running of what they're like, and no one else, when they come on, most people just come on once kind of thing. So there's nerves and all, like, what am I going to say and all that sort of stuff. And I've kind of reconciled that bit for me. I'm just like, I'm just going to fucking say anything. So it's not that, there's not that much anxiety anymore. I'm just like, jump on. Before we jump in, I do like to do, like, I don't know if it's a formal check-in, but in my world, especially like in men's circle and stuff, we do like a physical, mental, emotional check-in. What would it be like to be you physically, mentally, emotionally right now? And you kind of touched on some of it already, but if we break it into those three.
Yeah, physically, my body's just been so out recently. I've been going to the chiropractor every week for the last 4 weeks. My neck's been out. Just have not been feeling physically very well, not very vital. In this moment, I'm feeling okay. I have a little niggle between my shoulder blades. But other than that, body feels actually kind of better than it's been feeling for a while, which is nice. Mentally, I'm feeling, I don't know, it's because, on the weekend we're talking about polarities, and so I've been really noticing that in myself, is that I'm feeling as equally unsteady as I am steady.
Yeah.
Like I'm feeling unsteady this week, but I still feel really grounded, so mentally it's been a tough week, and I'm really at peace with that, so we have good weeks, we have bad weeks, whatever. I'm just allowing myself to have a mentally tough week, so I feel okay with that.
There's some peace in that for you.
Yeah, there's some peace in that because I'm human, and I know that, some days are just like this.
Yeah.
So,
And emotionally?
Emotionally similar, I guess. I've been feeling really emotional this week, and an hour ago I was actually feeling really charged, and I just had to have a quick conversation to, so I didn't bring that here. I didn't want to bring that here, so that was really helpful to have that conversation. And on the way down, I spoke to a good friend and spoke a little bit more about that, because I didn't want to really bring that here. So,
Yeah.
so now in this moment that I'm sitting here, I'm feeling quite light. And yeah, again, just quite steady emotionally. I feel quite, definitely a little tender,
Yep.
but again, I'm okay with that. So there's still a steadiness and an emotional steadiness that comes with that. I'm okay with feeling like this.
Is that okayness, is that kind of new, or is this something that's been ticking away for a while? Like, yeah, because I hear in that the okayness of being unsteady, the okayness of um, being peaceful amongst the uncomfortableness. Is that kind of a new experience for you?
Definitely new, as in it's been at the forefront of my practice probably for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But it's not a like it's a pattern that I can fall out of quite easily.
Okay.
So I have to be very conscious with that because I can quite easily spiral.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess there is a newness. It doesn't feel like it's fully embedded in me,
Yep.
to be like that. But saying that, I don't know. It's an interesting question because, yeah, I am a grounded person,
Yeah.
and I am known to be quite steady as well. But that can also be a little bit of a mask,
Yeah.
So I'm playing between this place of being steady and being okay and really asking myself the deeper question, well, are you? And, am I willing to drop, if that is a wall or a mask that I'm wearing, am I willing to drop it down and actually really let people see me for what I'm feeling when I'm unsteady? So it's definitely something that I've told myself again and again and again, that I am steady, I am grounded, and that's reflected back at me. I'm often told these things as well,
Yep.
So did that answer the question?
I don't even know what the question was, but it doesn't matter. This is the joy of this podcast. It's like we can just rabbit hole the shit out of this.
It's new. It's not new, and it is new.
Yeah, but I think the bit that really jumped out for me was just that noticing in yourself the mask of groundedness.
Yeah.
That's a tricky little fucker.
Yeah.
Look at me, and then not that little like shadowy side of that, of like permission to express and feel and maybe share when you're not grounded, and like you did just then.
Yeah, totally. And that's definitely something that I do is I go and I fall apart in private and I resolve things in private.
Yep.
And then I come back out in the world to have the conversation. I don't really, it's new for me to allow myself to be seen in the chaos, to be seen in the mess, and I do, that's not new for me to go away and be able to resolve myself and come back to an uncomfortable conversation from a place of steadiness, for example, in comparison to maybe allowing myself to be seen in that process of going from unsteady to steady, which I do in private.
Yeah. It's a little bit safer, isn't it?
It's fully safer.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for speaking to that off the check-in. It's cool.
Yeah.
My check-in, I'm an idiot sometimes. I've been trying to stay pretty physical, trying to be like training quite a bit. Well, this week was the week of putting weights up and adding sets and going a bit heavier, and my joints are not happy about it. I squatted and deadlifted last night, and I don't do much weight, but I just added a bit and chucked a bit of volume in, and my knees and lower back are just not my greatest friends today. They're like just a little reminder that, you're 48 and not 28. And it kind of makes me a little bit, in the past, I would have got really frustrated about these little signs of, I'm not where I used to be, but now I'm just stoked to be able to be doing 4 weeks of training and being a bit sore after lifting my weights up. Like there was a time that I couldn't fucking train at all. So I'm sort of stoked to have knee pain, from a perspective of like, I'm just grateful I get to train. So that's kicking around. Mentally, I've had a really fucking good day. Had some really good coaching sessions this morning. I've been really looking forward to doing this. I went to sleep last night feeling a little bit blessed, a little bit like, oh, look at the people I get to hang out with. So mentally just feeling, yeah, I don't know. The stories are ones of gratitude. Of like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And then emotionally, I guess there's kind of like the downstream effects of that story. There's gratitude and joy and excitement, and those cool emotions that we get to feel that are not always there. And I think we're in a study group together and we spend a bit of time together. So you've seen me a couple of weeks ago when it wasn't like that, when things were rough and I was a bit flat, and so it's just personally, like you said, it's like going through it, knowing that it's going to move through. It's for me, signposting when it is feeling really good is as important as not losing my shit when I'm in the funk. So that's a really big check-in.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So that overall, just feeling fucking rad today.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Those days.
How do we know each other? Why are you sitting on my couch? What is going on?
Day one at GTB.
And what is GTB?
Gestalt Therapy Brisbane, where we study, where we're doing our 4 years master's degree. What? That's still...
Therapy nerds.
Oh, my God. I never thought I'd do a master's degree. Oh, my God. Never thought I'd really go back to any type of other schooling, but or any other institution. I remember on our first day, it was your birthday.
It was. What a strange way to have a birthday.
Yeah.
50 of your closest people you've never met.
Yeah. It was your birthday. And I remember you saying, oh, do you teach yoga? And I remember thinking, oh, fuck, I just want to be incognito. I just want to be here and not be known by anybody. And then you knew me through you were friends with the studio owner of where I was teaching a class. And and so I felt a bit vulnerable actually in that, just because it was unexpected, and I I guess I was looking forward to immersing in a study of something that was not yoga, and I guess just having a connection to something that was yoga. At the time I felt just a bit like that.
I shattered your clean slate, hopefulness.
And actually I ended up knowing 2 other beautiful women in there who have been really good friends of mine. So it kind of wasn't like I expected anyway. And it's actually been such a beautiful blessing. Yeah, it's been really nice, you know. So,
and we've I call it therapy camp colloquially, and we've been in a study group together all of last year and all of this year, which means that we hang out pretty much every fortnight mostly, and then have the weekends together, and then we get each other's back when we're trying to write academic papers. And so, yeah, we've kind of fast-tracked. Like we've spent a lot of time together in the last 12 months, haven't we?
Yes.
And I think the part that in that and how we can quickly become friends is we've been in arenas where we've chosen to share parts of ourselves that we don't often share. And that whole GTB, that first year of like, it's kind of like experiencing self and exploring self, and now we're kind of exploring other. It's got a little bit of magic about it even.
It's so deep, you know, you learn really fast about each other, and it's different to out there in the real world where maybe you don't bring so much of yourself, but again and again and again in this training, we're given the opportunity to share really deep parts of ourselves. And it's so exposing and vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so to witness that in each other and, witness it emerge from ourselves, I guess, does fast track us to get to know each other faster than maybe if we were just working together or meeting in some other way.
Definitely. And now we just can take the piss out of each other easier.
And I can call you when I'm falling apart because I can't get the Google document into a Word document. Yeah.
Yep. Why Gestalt therapy? What was happening in your world to go, let's do this?
I've been a client of Gestalt therapy for a very long time. And for me, it's been absolutely transformational. I've been in and out of therapy for most of my life and never really connected with any actually therapist. And it wasn't until I started to, well, it was through my teacher actually. My teacher, Mark Togney. Shout out Mark Togney. Not that he'll probably listen to this,
You can
but
text him.
but yeah, he has been, I guess, in Gestalt therapy. And so a lot of the methods and the tools that he has used when him and I have been in one-on-one, private sessions between us, which is basically a little like talk therapy as well, has been very much using these tools. And then I actually started going to see Carol and Joe Darci on the Gold Coast with my partner for couple counselling. And I started to see them regularly. And it was so transformational for myself, for my relationship, for, patterns that I'd been working on for such a long time. The way that this therapy was transforming me was just so profound, so deep, so eye-opening. And yeah, I've been working in the yoga industry for a really long time and I love it. Like I live my vocation. I feel very grateful that I love what I do. And I was really looking for a challenge and looking for something that wasn't yoga, because I've just studied yoga, Buddhism for, 20 odd years. And I wanted to do something different. And when I started to look into, counseling and psychology and all of this, and just the part of it that I just didn't like that it wasn't experiential. I didn't like the academic side of it, and not that GTB is still very academic. It has a very academic framework, and that is actually the part that challenges me to the core, funnily. But yeah, when I started to go through the process of applying and having the what's it called? The interviews, I just felt more and more like this is definitely me. This is what I want to do. I've been a practice of Zazen, of Zen for a really long time, and it has a very strong thread of that through it. So it also had a familiarity because I'd been as a client of Gestalt therapy for a long time and also have studied Zen and Buddhism for a long time as well. So it just made sense. And every time I looked at all of these other courses and degrees, none of them made sense to me. It didn't feel right. So it was very much based on feeling as I applied and I still wasn't sure. And then I had my first interview and I still wasn't sure. And little by little, it was, this is a yes.
I had a pretty similar story, I think, because I tried it on a year earlier and read the prospectus and went through the website and did all this stuff because I had some exposure to it, little bits, but not a lot. And then similarly, after I split up with my ex-wife, we did some therapy around co-parenting and just to put some frame around how to be co-parents. And the person that we had counselling with there was a Gestalt therapist. And that was my first real, like, pure exposure to it. And it was a really tough situation to be in because we were just recently separated and we were doing this therapy. So it was like emotionally charged, but I got so much out of how she held that. And being on the other end of being held like that in a tough situation, it's like, yeah, this has got. And then I spoke to her about it after we did a block and we finished, and I said, like, how is this Gestalt therapy? How does it work? And she studied at GTB. And then I actually had a separate call with her and we spoke for an hour about it. And from that call, I was like, I'm in. Like, this is me. So, yeah, went from there.
Yeah, it's so cool. What I really, really liked about it was they don't find a problem and try to fix it. And that's really what didn't resonate with me, I think. And I didn't know that at the time, but I'd moved from therapist to therapist to therapist. And there was something about it that I just wasn't a fan of. And it was only after, being a client of Gestalt therapy for some time that I realized that was what was happening, is that I wasn't being given answers.
Yep.
I wasn't being, made to feel like that I had a problem that had to be fixed.
You're not broken, you're just human.
I'm just human.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And the conversation would always be collaborative. I never felt this hierarchy of being lower than the therapist or different than the therapist. I always felt like they were jumping in the mud when I was jumping in the mud. They were with me the whole way. And it was more of like, how can we work this out together, rather than this is what you've got to do, And I really like that.
Yeah. I'm not broken, I'm just human.
Yeah. Way more empowering.
And I know personally for me, last year was pretty, what's the word for it? Life altering. I think I learned a lot about myself through using that frame and being in it and doing the experience of being on the other end of Gestalt therapy and learning about it. What did you learn about you last year?
Oh.
Just a small question.
Jesus.
What jumps out?
I need some time to think about that. What did I learn about me? I think what I learned and what I'm still learning is just how to be more of myself, how to let more of myself in. I think that I didn't realize how much actually that I was holding back from people, especially in my relationship with my partner, how much I wasn't actually allowing, how much I don't let people really see who I am,
Yeah.
And what I guess my biggest learning was that the more that I let people in, these parts that I think people aren't going to like, or that people aren't going to like, is the more that I bring that part into a relationship, it's actually really well received, which is always and still quite
counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't come across as a private person, but when it comes to my my insecurities and my vulnerabilities, I'm really good at not letting them be seen by everybody in my circle. And I what I learned last year was that if I can just let people in, and obviously I'm really picky, but with the people who, I hold near and dear, like my partner, I've been practicing letting myself be seen in that mess that I was talking about at the beginning, letting myself be seen in the process of going from unstable to stable, instead of doing that in private. And that when I bring that part of myself into the relationship, how much it deepens our connection. So that was really a really nice learning, and made me realize, I guess, how much I was holding back.
And it's exactly what you were talking about at the start, isn't it? It's like it's a little bit of peace in the uncomfortableness. It's being okay to be not 100% okay.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh.
Your turn.
Hi, my name's Rick. What I learned about myself? Yeah, in a similar vein, but in a different way, I kind of learned that it's okay to have a voice. That it's okay to say what's true for me, and to not withhold to manage other people's emotions. Just a small one. And there was so much symbolism throughout all of last year. Like, even starting this podcast is an expression of that. Like, this is fucking me. And I developed that permission through Gestalt and through the realization that it's okay, and if I finish the 4 years and that's all I've got, I'm pretty happy with that. You know, like I feel it's in a universal like underlying theme.
Oh, fully.
And we did an exercise last weekend where we spoke about what are our our sensitivities, especially when we're in group. Like, what are our group sensitivities? And mine was speaking too much. I don't want to speak too much and come across to be judged or to get it wrong. Or there's a lot of old stories in there around like having a voice. And what I've actually learned about myself is that I love to learn by doing, and that I need to process the experience before I speak about it. And it's hard for me to do that in real time. And I've often got into a bit of a tangle in some of the group work where I'll be feeling something, but I don't actually know what it is yet. And I get caught up, and I'm clunky, and I say things that aren't actually really true because I haven't really worked out what's going on. So I've kind of learned to give myself some space in that gap between feeling and expressing, and that it's okay for me to say, I'll probably have a better idea about what this looks like tomorrow, and can we talk then? Because right now I'm just in the middle of it and I can't put my finger on it. And I used to think that was not good enough, but I've realized that it's important for me, that it's okay. And if you don't know what it is right now, that's okay too, So yeah, that's probably one of the bigger things that came out of last year. And then there was this funny thing that they said, that Sharon, our teacher, said. She's like, often your biggest insecurity is exactly the magic the world needs from you. And I was like, fuck you. Did you register that one?
Yeah, I registered that for sure. Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, and just to sit in a group of 15 people and all share, because the exercise was to share the story behind our insecurity or our sensitivity. And it's that same thing of like, it's emotional and real and vulnerable and all those things, and it's okay. It's okay for me to have this backstory that leads me to this expression and my throat getting tight when I speak in front of a group, and it's okay.
How was that for you, sharing your sensitivity and then linking it to a story in the group? How was that for you?
I love that shit. I love it because it's just another way of looking at more of our humanness. It's what this podcast is. It's just a no holds barred conversation to see what's behind the bits that show up. So I look forward to the opportunity to be able to do that in a setting that's held really well. So I got as much from speaking as I did from listening, probably more from listening, because I could really feel my story in other people's shares. And then it's like I'm starting to try and fine tune that skill a little bit as well. So I found that thing, maybe that exercise that afternoon that we did, probably one of the highlights of the weekend. How was it for you?
Yeah, it was really emotional for me, actually. Yeah, it was really difficult to, I guess, the part of, I know the reason of why I'm like I am. I know the reason, but to share, that little snippet of my childhood or my life felt very exposing. And it was really emotional. It was really difficult for me to share the sensitivity and then link it to the story. And it is the space is just held so well, so that I can go there feeling relatively safe, but my body tells me otherwise.
Yeah.
So to sit with that level of vulnerability in front of all of those eyes watching me, which then is another sensitivity, of having everybody witness me in my vulnerability, and not just that, but then lean in and give resonance is very difficult for me
To hear.
to hear. Yeah. And to believe, actually, like to believe that those offering resonance mean it, you know?
And resonance is really someone just sharing impact, isn't it? The impact your words have had on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
What's hard to hear that? Why is that hard for you?
I guess it's just that I don't know. I guess it's down to the way that I was raised. You know, I've never been someone, you know, like when we talk about languages of love, for example, words of affirmation, they give me the ick for me.
The
You
whole
know,
love languages thing gives me the ick.
does it?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that saved my relationship. So that was like
Okay.
a really big yeah, I don't know, little side note, but Bren and I were having some struggles a very long time ago, and we read that and learnt that we knew that we were speaking different
Yeah,
languages, but when
right.
we
Cool.
clarified the language, we were able to start to speak each other's languages. But yeah,
The challenge of hearing resonance.
the challenge of hearing resonance, because it just brings up even more emotion, and then I struggle being emotive in front of you know, I'm known for my smile, for my laugh, and while I love that part of myself, it's also a huge defense mechanism,
Yep.
so that you don't see what is beneath that, really, you know. And I do walk around with a big smile on my face, and most of the time it is very real, you know. And if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I will usually laugh at inappropriate times or smile. So when I let that part of myself, that guard down, and people start to offer resonance, and I feel not alone, and actually I feel very comfortable being alone.
Yep.
So being with somebody else is challenging for me. It's I could easily live in a cave and have no contact with another human being. This would be easy for me.
Yep.
I very much like my own company. I struggle a lot being out there in the world. I struggle being in close relationship with people. And I still can do it, and I do it because it's part of my healing, you know, and I've been doing that as part of my healing for many, many years now, you know. But I'm comfortable in the isolation. So when people start to reach out to me, it makes me feel uncomfortable, you know.
Because then there's that part of you where I heard before around like, I just sort out my shit in private and then come back once I'm grounded again and, you know, can present.
Totally.
This is the opposite of that, isn't it?
It's the opposite of that. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about people listening, like we're talking about being open and honest in a group that's structured and held and like, how does that skill or muscle that you're building with that, how does that translate out into everyday life for you?
It's just, it gives me this space to practice in a safe and guided framework, being vulnerable and being in contact with other people, so that then I take those tools home and I go home and I do it at home, you know. And for some reason, even though I'm in, you know, Brennan, my partner, he's an absolute legend, you know, he's just such a great guy. And there's still this, even though I know it's not risky, you know, in the logical mind, I know it's not risky to go and bring all of myself to him. He's not going anywhere. He's solid as a rock, you know. But my body tells me that it is so risky, you know, and that I can just easily go and resolve it on my own and then come back steady. So
The old groove.
Yeah. So being in that structured group environment, where we're being invited to, you know, and I'm obsessed with doing the inner work. You know, I really love working on myself. And so it gives a little bit of a structure and a framework, and just the opportunity where for me, it feels often very self-indulgent for me to share a part of myself. Like I'm taking up someone's space and they don't really care anyway. And so why am I talking about this? Because it doesn't really matter, and just go and take this somewhere else privately and resolve it.
Like being too much.
Yeah. I fully feel like I'm too much. Yeah. And so even when I shared the sensitivity, I was invited to elaborate, you know. And so just that invitation to elaborate and bring more of myself, I guess, gives me the green light that it's okay to go and bring that part of myself. And I try it on for size. And then I'm, you know, I think, oh, I can go home and do that, you know. And so then I consciously take that tool home and I go and try it out. And it has just moved mountains in my partnership last year, and continues to. You know, I came in going, you know, what I crave is intimacy, but what makes me feel safe is isolation. How can I bridge this gap? You know, and so I'm obsessed with bridging that gap. I'm in therapy because I want to bridge that gap. And there's something about the group process and the invitation to deepen into whatever it is that we're talking about in a way that's optional.
Yeah.
There's no pressure, you
Yeah.
know. It works for me. It's working, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's providing you with evidence.
Yeah.
And I experience the same thing in group as well, like up there and in men's circle and stuff. There's something about the magic of being seen by more than one person at a time. When there's some stuff, some like honest and vulnerable stuff happening, there's just some fucking magic in it.
Yeah.
And I get how past experience can shape the perception of what that's going to be like, you know, for a lot of people with different versions of that story. I've got a friend who's a really good friend of mine. He's like, I will never fucking come to your circle. He goes, oh, I do not trust people with my honest word. I'm like, cool. But that's his truth. He's just like, I'm just never going to put myself out there like that. And that's just his history.
Yeah, it's not for everyone, this work.
No.
Yeah.
But one part of it, I think, is worthy of exploring is like, what does a step into the shallow end of the pool look like? You know, as in like just not jumping in the deep end, of sharing your experience with someone else that you feel safe with. You know, just as a general question for, you know, people listening that are not in this structured format that we are. It's like, if you could ask yourself that question, like, what does it look like if I could share my truth a little bit more with someone that I trust? And just fucking try it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
And it's as equally liberating. I feel like the more uncomfortable I feel, I know, and like you say, I've had so much evidence now that when I step into that discomfort, the magic that blooms from that is just priceless. Yeah, always worth the discomfort of having bringing more of myself, or letting other people see me and my actual experience, rather than this big, you know, joking smile or the depth.
And I think the level of liberation is met by the level of terror that you go in with.
It's true.
You know,
it's absolutely
I'm shitting myself, and then the equal amount of joy and liberation on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also the reason that people don't go through the door.
Fully. Yeah.
You know?
It's definitely not for the faint-hearted. It's so deep.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it is definitely accessible and open for everybody, but I do think that there's got to be some kind of calling to, you know, kind of move into this type of work.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody, I don't think.
Yeah. As a therapist, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I've told you this story, but I'm pretty comfortable with big emotions, and that's not from a house of having big emotions. Everything was pretty much, you know, pushed under the carpet and blew up eventually. But I found out, when I was 21, I moved to the Gold Coast from Brisbane, and I got a job working for a client. I was a personal trainer at the time for a little bit, and she was the unit manager at the Robina young adult mental health ward. And I worked with her for 18 months in acute mental health, child and adolescent, and young adult. And I learned that I was really fucking comfortable with really, really big emotional expressions and distress, and it was nearly fun, and not in a sick way, but just in like, I'm okay with this, and I can sit with this person and be with them and not. And I did it until I couldn't do it, because it was some big stuff that happened. And at 21, it's like, I don't need this in my life 24/7 right now. But I banked that experience going, I could potentially come back to something like that. And I think I pulled that card out of my back pocket a couple of years ago. I'm like, I remember that, and I'm okay with it. And there's been other little experiences along the way. But yeah, I think that really shaped my ability to go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know that I could do that, and cool. And let's see what happens in the future. And You know, it feels like our future's here now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. You know, I'm comfortable with my own anger, for example, but when it comes to sadness and shame, for example, those are two emotions that I'm not comfortable being witnessed in.
In someone witnessing you?
Yeah.
How were you witnessing others in that?
I'm okay.
Hmm?
Yeah, I have to think about that. There's definitely been a lot of my life where I haven't been comfortable with that. But I think just the nature of my work, that happens a lot, you
Yep.
know. And so over time, I have built the capacity to be able to hold space for people in those bigger feelings.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, I'm just thinking of, I wonder if it was my dad or my partner, you know, how would I be? I would be able to hold space and I would be uncomfortable.
Yeah, both.
Yeah, both.
It's that bloody polarity
It's
again,
that
isn't
bloody
it?
polarity.
I love that shit.
Oh, it's so good.
Because what I see in that is like we're opening ourselves up to more parts of us that potentially get pushed away. And like a polarity is really just like the two ends of a spectrum, essentially. And yeah, I kind of stole that activity that we did on Friday night and did it with the men on Monday night. And it's just it's really simple. And I think I'll just speak to what it is. Like they chose a trait or a characteristic they feel is going pretty well in their life right now. And then they mapped out what the pros of that and the cons of that are, the benefits, consequences, whatever you want to phrase it. And then they chose what the polarity of that is. So for me, when we did it, my self-trust is okay at the moment. I'm feeling like that's a thing that's going pretty well. So I wrote about that on Friday night because I'm staying true to my word with my training and, you know, business. And so I feel like the trust bit is pretty strong at the moment. And then the polarity that came up with that was like insecurity. So I had to explore the insecure parts, you know, like how do I benefit from insecurity? And then what are the consequences of insecurity? And I didn't like that because it touched on a younger part of me that I kind of forgot about. There's been parts of my life when I've been really insecure. And I've kind of pushed those parts away a little bit. But in doing that exercise and owning like a part of me is insecure and it benefits from doing this, and it was like, there's another layer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that the thing I like about that polarity work is that we can shine the light on all our goodness, and that's fine and a bit easy. But then we shine our light on a bit of our shittiness. It's not so easy. And then to be told that we, you know, would benefit from accepting that is not fucking easy at all.
No, yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
So that mapping, especially of that sort of shadowy sort of polarity, I find to be super interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah, I wrote, because it was the way that I took it was, you know, find, you know, right on the top of this page, a part of you that you have come to peace with enough.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I wrote driven because I'm very driven, you know. And then the other end of the polarity was unfocused. And
Unfocused.
unfocused,
Yeah, right.
yeah. And it was funny, I was trying to think, what's the other end of driven? Determined it was. So yeah, determined, and then unfocused. And yeah, it was the same. It was actually the determined part of me. It was easy to go, I know the pros and I know the cons of this being determined or driven, you know. And then when I was looking at, and it was actually, I did write determined and then I wrote /driven. Yep. And then I ended up writing in the other section where the other end of the polarity was unfocused and I don't care. And it was definitely when I was looking at the pros and cons of that unfocused and I don't care part of myself. When I was looking at the pros of that, I was quite pleasantly surprised, you know. Of
what were some of those?
You know, the benefit of when I move into that place of being unfocused and into that place of I don't care is that it is the one time that I let myself rest.
Yeah.
It is the one time where I clear the calendar and I say fuck it to everything else and I say yes to myself.
Yep.
And I'm pretty good at self-care, but when it comes to my drive and my determination, which is very present in my personality, in my life, it's really hard for me to rest. It's really hard for me to stop. And I do usually, when I rest and when I stop, I have to sit there with a lot of guilt about it.
Yeah.
So it's uncomfortable for me to be in rest. It's really uncomfortable for me to stop. And when I get to that place where I'm completely unfocused or, just so exhausted, I give myself permission and I don't feel guilty,
Let go of control a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So interesting, that theme.
Yeah.
We've had conversations about this, and Joe and I are going into Melbourne next weekend to do our next in-person weekend with our crew down there making space. And we're going to do a piece around busyness, around I like using the language, how do we hide in busyness? But Joe doesn't like that language. But it's like, what are the benefits of our busyness? And then looking at that and seeing how much of our life is taken up by busyness, but what's the downside of that? And how much of being busy, like stuffing the to-do list, is moving away from not wanting to feel something compared to the positive side of it. Because there's some really fucking good things about being busy and productive. There's like that dopamine feedback loop. There's getting stuff done. There's achievement. There's like business success, like all of it. But then it's like, damn, this thing can be addictive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. And I always think, it's because of my drive and because of being so determined. That's why I run a business that I love and that's why I'm living my vocation, and if I'm not careful, it pulls me away from presence. It pulls me away from my family.
Yep.
I have to be very mindful that I'm not choosing, to work over being with my family. That's an easy thing for me to do, and so, and that has severe consequences. And I watched that with my parents, and I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's a challenging pattern to break. If I was just going with the easiest path of resistance, I would just work all the time.
Yeah.
I can easily, I'm a workaholic, absolutely a workaholic.
And we get rewarded.
The rewards are huge, But yeah, it does take me away from being present to what is actually emerging in my body, in my feelings, with my family. It's a form of running. It's a form of running away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I thought about this term the other day. It's like productive procrastination. So like actually getting shit done, but it's really just a form of procrastinating from what you really should be doing.
Oh, yeah, I'm really good at that. Yeah.
It's like, fuck, that's me.
Yeah.
And then this like, I'm thinking about the connection between like the busyness and guilt, because you mentioned guilt before. Where does the guilt pop up for you in that?
I guess it's just, the guilt that I'm not being productive. I feel guilty.
When you're resting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel guilty that I'm not doing something that's going to get me somewhere. And even though now I know it took many years to figure this out, but I know now that how beneficial it is resting.
Yeah. We logically know that.
It gets me to where I want to go faster, actually. But sitting with the guilt is more challenging, and so I often notice myself, scaling. Oh, well, okay, I'll go in the garden instead and do some weeding or plant some seeds or something. Still in this doing, but it's restful doing. And so I still notice that I still busy myself in these moments of rest. You know, it's hard for me to sit there and stare out to the horizon, you know. It takes real extreme effort, so much that it actually feels kind of stressful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, my mind is just wants to be doing something.
Yeah. And so what I hear in that, sorry to cut you off, I'm just getting excited.
That's okay.
The guilt drives you back to the busyness. You know?
Yeah.
Like that's the loop.
Yeah. It's
like we're busy, and if we're not being busy, we're guilty resting, and it drives us back to being busy because we can't handle the guilt.
Yeah.
And then a question that Jo asked me one day, and she's like, what are you actually guilty of? I'm like, fuck. I'm not guilty of anything.
Yeah.
I'm putting this guilt on myself. This is unearned guilt. You know,
Yeah.
guilt is feeling bad that you've done something wrong. And this is, I think this concept of like unearned guilt has some legs, because most people I speak to have a version of, I feel guilt. And if you ask them, like, what are you guilty of? They're like, oh, nothing. I'm just putting this guilt on myself. Parent guilt, partner guilt, you know, health guilt, work guilt. But when it comes to rest, it's a whole different ballgame, you know?
It absolutely is. I wonder whether, you know, I think back, well, I see how my parents moved through life, very busy, you know, busy people, didn't really witness them resting much, you know, and so I have wondered whether I'm just a product of my parents, you know, and this guilt isn't mine. Maybe this guilt is theirs. I don't know where the guilt comes from, you know. I know that when Brendan comes home at the end of the day, and if he says, "Oh, what have you been doing today?" and if I say, "Oh, not much," I feel awful. Like I feel like I should. All the shoulds, you know, start coming in. I should have done this. I should have done that. I could have done that.
Quickly clean the kitchen. Like, I work from home too, and it's a thing. Fuck, this place is a mess. I've done nothing. Especially on a weekend. Yes. Weekends are worse. Like, I tested that out. Was it yesterday, the day before? I had an hour, and productive me really wanted to fucking get some shit done, tick them off. But I chose to go and sit on the couch and scroll YouTube for an hour consciously, because I'm like, do the thing that you actually want to do right now, that what you feel like doing, that's against what productive Rick wants to do. And I've been messing with this a little bit. I call it my brick in the wall idea. I like, in Men's Circle, this term, or every term, we kind of set an intention for the 10 weeks. And it's like physical intention, relationship, and career or business or whatever you got going on. And it's like, you know, what direction are you heading for the 10 weeks? And like, what are some of the things that you need to do to get there? You know, goal setting 101, you know. But for me, I've worked out that each week I've just got to put another brick in the wall. And what that gives me permission is, it gives me permission to stop after the brick's in place, rather than having to fucking stack 4 more bricks on that day. So I have a physical brick, a relationship brick, and a work brick. Once I've put one brick in, I got free time, baby. May or not be true. I've still got to take my kid to the dentist and do responsibilities. But as far as like the moving forward to-do list, I'm banking space by just putting one brick in the wall. And that's why I was testing this the other day. I'm like, okay, I really just want to, I don't know what it was I was focused on for that day, something on YouTube that I was like, I really want to just deep dive in a rabbit hole of YouTube for an hour. I've got my bricks, they're done. Okay. And there was no guilt in that, you know. So it's so funny, like the cages that we build ourselves.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that analogy, and it's true. You know, it's easier for me to rest if I've done something like that. I've never looked at it like that metaphor, but if I've done X, Y, and Z for the day, then I find it easier to.
Yeah. You got to earn your rest.
You got to earn. You got to earn the rest. Yes, absolutely. You know? Yeah.
But I just found there was no end to that for me. I would just do more and more and more because I'm quite happy to work like you. I love it. I love what I do. But there's also a point of how do I show up for these guys here? How do I be present? How do I find my enjoyment? And this has really fucking helped because I'm not stacking more and more and more to get that external validation on the other side.
Yeah.
It's like that one brick, and that one brick has got to do with self-validation, not validation from anyone else.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different vibe.
It is a whole different vibe. Yeah. I like that. That's cool.
Brick in the wall. If you're listening, Melbourne Crew, that's what we're working on next time. What else? That's a fucking dangerous question to ask on a podcast.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't even know how long I've been going, but I normally ask each guest what's exciting at the moment, like what's really floating their boat, so to speak. What's getting them excited?
What's getting me excited?
Yeah, and it could be in this moment, or it could be in life in general, or it could be looking forward a little bit, going, "Oh, I'm really looking forward to doing that."
Yeah. I mean, we've just started planning for our retreat in July, which is super exciting because it's, diving back into, philosophy and creating the content that's going to come with that retreat and, doing all of the logistical structuring of who's going to go in what room and starting to reach out to our facilitators and doing all of that. So that's really exciting. I love the planning phase of things like that. I struggle with the wrapping up, but I love it when we're just getting into something. So we're in the middle of, by we I mean myself and Evie. We run these retreats together, and so we've just kind of started the whole planning process of that, and that's really exciting.
Can see it on your face.
Yeah, I love that. I love that stuff. I love doing the retreats and love the whole planning. And it's really nice sharing it with someone as well. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
For me right now.
I have a bit of jealousy around that.
Do you?
No, it's just something I want to be able to do in the future, and to see how well you do it, and your consistency and the feedback and all of it. Just starting to get a little bit more into, stalking you on social media and seeing, what all of the whole expansiveness of what you got going on there. It's really fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting. I'm really excited.
What do you love about the retreats?
Oh, they're just so deep.
Yeah.
I love depth. I love getting deep with people, and I just am so passionate about watching people, have those aha moments and transform their own lives and take the power back. And I just, when we run this philosophy of yoga retreat, there's just so much of that. So much of people just learning and discovering more and more about themselves and their own capacity.
It's a pretty cool thing to see in real time, isn't it?
It just really lights me up. Yeah, there's actually probably not much else that fills my cup so much as just watching people in that place of transformation, and
it's probably at the core of why you're going to be a good therapist.
Yeah.
Because that's your North Star.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And it's just this coming together and I always need so much downtime afterwards because I get peopled out very easily, but it's this sharing it with Evie, who I'm really close to, and being able to share it. And I ran retreats for so many years on my own.
Yep.
And the burnout was real, so sharing it with someone is actually really joyful, and provides space for both of us as well.
Yeah.
And so I know we're going up the mountain and when we get there that I'm also going to learn more about myself, as well. So I also come out changed, and different groups that come together, different things emerge, and you never really know what. And it's just, I don't know, it's just special. It's very special. Yeah. How about you? What's exciting you at the moment?
Quite a bit, but I feel like a little 12-year-old when I say that. There's this, and then no, I'm actually when you were speaking, what I was going to say, what was live then. There's this. There's something special about being in person, and I think the retreats are a really good expression of that, of like being there as opposed to being on Zoom or doing an online program and I've been just while you were talking, I was thinking about like most of my work, nearly all of it except the odd Zoom session, is in person, and I really value that. And the thing in complete contrast to that, that I'm excited about at the moment, is I'm nearly finished putting together an audio series called Unstuck Plug, and I'm super fucking proud of what's coming together in that program. And I definitely want to turn that into something that involves some face-to-face scenario. But yeah, I think it actually comes back to that sensitivity around having a voice. And there's the realization that if I give myself the right amount of time to process and put things together, and I'm big on frames and maps, and they guide me. And I feel like, well, what I'm realizing, which is a bit weird to say, but one of my strengths is making complex things simple. And I feel like that's what this is. It's like stuckness is a really, loaded situation, and there's lots of things that can be involved in it. And I feel like I'm getting to make that into a simple way to look at it. And that feels really exciting. And I think I'm learning as much about myself as I am about like this process, which is the fun part. Yeah, so that feels pretty alive at the moment. I spent half a day working on that yesterday, and I guess having these mics and feeling a bit okay with the audio part gives me permission to like, let's just continue down that path, because I fucking hate doing video. I could do this all day and then get me on a video, and I'm just like a self-conscious freak. I don't know how you're pretty good on video. You speak on video all the time.
Yeah. It's funny because, for someone who doesn't really like to be witnessed, and I guess though it's, I don't know. I don't know what that is. Yeah, I don't mind. I've built I have built I guess a relationship with being okay with being online. And I don't mind it. I'm one of these people that doesn't, I know that social media doesn't work for a lot of people, but I actually find it quite soothing.
Yeah.
And I used to be a photographer, and there's this creative element of it that I really enjoy. And yeah, I don't know. I get kind of triggered by all the smoke and mirrors that are on social media, and that's why sometimes I do turn up kind of uncensored and raw because
Kinda.
yeah. And I don't use filters and all of this kind of stuff because I just think that there's actually so much room for that online.
Yeah.
Yeah, how is it for me? It's fine. I don't mind it. Yeah, I kind of enjoy it.
Comfortable.
Yeah, I feel comfortable.
I feel comfortable doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll feel comfortable doing lots of videos.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I can do it. It's just not my preferred way to communicate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But mostly, and I think it's also like COVID contributed to this. It's just like getting off the screen is important to me. And, everything was done through Zoom, and even just to be like having the majority of things in person just feels really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, it's funny that whole, because we were in the middle of a yoga teacher training when all that happened, and I never believed in doing a yoga teacher training online.
Yeah.
It just did not vibe with me at all. I felt like I was very strong in my opinion that it was meant to be person to person. But that kind of, I want to say forced, but I guess it guided me towards opening my mind to be online. We had to go online to get everybody through. We were booked out. We had 14 people and everybody went through, which was incredible. You know, and that really built, you know, a solid foundation of actually moving our training online.
Yeah.
And it's just been awesome. You know, I'm working in front of a much more diverse crew,
Yeah.
which is really, really nice. And you know, just teaching online, it's just a different demographic to where I'm living on the Gold Coast, and I enjoy that different demographic.
Because that's cool, isn't it? Because you've sort of pivoted a little bit in the yoga from being a studio teacher predominantly to predominantly doing this now, yeah?
So yeah, I was teaching in studios, and then we launched the yoga teacher training. I was running teacher trainings for other people as
Yep.
well. And then yeah, we launched our own teacher training. It was myself and a business partner at the time.
Yep.
And then she kind of stepped back and I kept going. And yeah, I mean, even the startup doing that with Alicia, she's a dear friend, was awesome. But yeah, so that was all very much in person. And now actually I'm predominantly online. And I think that, you know, being a mum, it keeps me at home more,
Yeah,
you know, and so
100%.
it's really convenient. And it's just busted all of the myths that I thought, you know, that I wasn't going to be able to create deep connections online. I just didn't believe it.
Oh,
And I have been able to.
yeah.
And our training, it's really, you know, we run it online, and there's a live element, as in interactive through Zoom.
Yep.
And I love it. You know, I love it because I don't have to get in the car. I love it because I turn my computer off and I'm straight with my family.
Yep.
You know, I wake up in the morning and I teach a meditation class, and my son's just inside. I don't have to go anywhere, you know, so I haven't had to get extra care. I haven't had to like put him in any other, you know, system or any other care. I've been able to be that predominant person in his life because of the online world, you know, and still bring in an income basically. And we still do the in-person trainings, and they're really valuable and special as well. It's different. It's definitely different.
And I definitely, people are more used to it now. So like pre-COVID, it was, remember Skype?
Yeah,
Back in the
that's
day?
right. Yeah.
And then Zoom popped after COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, most people are just super cool with it now. Because they do it in some capacity.
Yeah.
And I got clients in the US and in Melbourne, and just makes it accessible.
Totally. Yeah. It's so much more accessible. It's very convenient. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I will not be harassing you anymore, except to get you back for another one.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable.
Yeah, I really appreciated where we've got to dance with, and yeah, I look forward to getting it out into the world.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Thanks, Darci.
Thank you.
Well, hey, before you head off, I just wanted to say thanks for listening to that conversation. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate if you followed the podcast on Spotify, left a review, or even just left a comment and let me know what you got from the podcast. Those little bits of interaction mean a lot. We're not doing any promo or ads, or we're not selling anything on this podcast. So the goal is just to get these conversations into more people's ears. So yeah, if you've got a spare 30 seconds, really appreciate those little steps that help this grow. Okay, we'll see you in the next one.